Not every Marvel comic is proudly remembered. Some are buried, ignored, and quietly treated like they never happened. Stories so bad, so offensive, or so damaging to characters that Marvel spent years undoing the fallout. A hero rewritten beyond recognition. A storyline that crossed every wrong line. And plots so embarrassing Marvel pretended they weren't canon anymore. These weren't harmless experiments. They were mistakes Marvel would rather erase from history. So, which Marvel comics does Marvel secretly want you to forget ever happened? Here are 10 infamous issues they'd love buried forever. At number 10 is Mark Hazard, Merc. Mark Hazard, Merc ran for 12 issues between 1986 and 1987 under Marvel's New Universe line. The character was created outside Marvel's main superhero continuity and introduced as a Vietnam War veteran working as a mercenary. From its first issue, the series embraced a grittiness Marvel rarely approached. Mark Hazard is portrayed as a cold, absentee father and husband, alienating his family to pursue a life of violence. At the time, Marvel allowed this tone under the New Universe mandate for grounded and adult storytelling. The New Universe line was canceled by 1987, and Mark Hazard disappeared with it. Marvel never reprinted the series in collected editions and never promoted it in retrospectives or anniversaries. The character does not appear in official Marvel timelines or modern handbooks. Later New Universe references avoid his story entirely. Mark Hazard remains officially published but functionally abandoned, surviving only in original issues and historical records. At number 9 is NFL SuperPro. NFL SuperPro ran for 12 issues between 1991 and 1992 and was created through a licensing partnership between Marvel Comics and the National Football League. The character was not born from Marvel mythology, but from corporate branding. Phil Grayfield was introduced as a former professional football player who became a costume superhero after an experimental training accident. The series focused on crime stories built around football themes and NFL imagery. At the time, Marvel approved the project to attract sports fans and younger readers during a period of aggressive market expansion. The experiment failed quickly. Sales declined, and the series ended without a conclusion. After the license expired, Marvel lost the right to use NFL branding, uniforms, and logos. As a result, the series was never reprinted or collected in any format. NFL SuperPro vanished from Marvel promotions, anniversaries, and official reading lists. The character does not appear in modern continuity or reference books. NFL SuperPro remains officially published, but legally and commercially erased from Marvel's active history. At number 8 is Trouble. Trouble was a 5-issue miniseries published in 2003 under Marvel's Mature Readers imprint. The story focused on teenage versions of May Parker and Ben Parker before Spider-Man existed. Written by Mark Miller, it portrayed them as sexually active friends involved in a love triangle. One character became pregnant, strongly implying a direct connection to Peter Parker's origin. At release, Marvel approved the series as an experimental adult prequel outside normal superhero storytelling. The reaction was immediate and severe. The series conflicted with established portrayals of May and Ben as moral anchors in Spider-Man history. After publication ended, Marvel stopped promoting the comic. Trouble has never been reprinted in standard collections, omnibuses, or anniversary editions. Modern handbooks and timelines avoid referencing its events. Later Spider-Man stories ignored its implications without formal acknowledgement. The series remains officially published but isolated. Trouble exists as a completed miniseries that Marvel does not integrate, revisit, or highlight in its ongoing canon. At number 7 is X-Men Gold Issue 1. X-Men Gold number 1 was released in 2017 as part of a major relaunch meant to restore classic X-Men status. The issue reintroduced a flagship team led by Kitty Pryde and was positioned as a celebratory fresh start. After publication, readers discovered hidden political and religious messages embedded in the background art. The artwork was physically recalled. These messages referenced real-world extremist slogans and were not part of the approved script. The imagery appeared multiple times throughout the issue and was clearly visible in printed and digital copies. Marvel responded quickly. The publisher issued a public apology and confirmed the messages violated company standards. The artist responsible was removed from the project. Marvel altered the artwork for later printings and updated the digital edition. The original version was never reprinted or promoted again. X-Men Gold #1 is absent from anniversary collections and official retrospectives. The story technically remains published, but its first printing has been quietly erased from Marvel's legacy and public history. What follows are not scandals hidden in the art, but entire storylines Marvel approved, published, and then quietly dismantled when the damage proved impossible to contain. At number 6 is Avengers: The Crossing. Avengers: The Crossing ran across Avengers issues 390 to 395 in 1995 during a period of heavy crossover storytelling. The storyline revealed that Iron Man had secretly served Kang the Conqueror for years and had manipulated major Avengers events from within. Several team members were shown as compromised or replaced, rewriting established history through sudden reversals. At the time, Marvel approved the arc to create shock and drive sales during a declining market. The storyline was almost immediately undone. Later, Avengers stories explained the events as deception, time manipulation, or misdirection, restoring Iron Man's role and nullifying the core premise. Marvel stopped referencing the arc in modern continuity. The Crossing has never been promoted in retrospectives, anniversaries, or definitive Avengers collections. It is absent from modern reading guides and official timelines. The story remains technically published but overwritten. Avengers: The Crossing exists as a discarded narrative that Marvel no longer integrates into its ongoing history. At number 5 is Spider-Man Chapter 1. Spider-Man Chapter 1 ran for 13 issues between 1998 and 1999 and was written and drawn by John Byrne. The series was designed as a modernized retelling of Spider-Man's early career, rewriting his origin, first villains, and supporting cast. Marvel approved the project to refresh continuity for new readers and align Spider-Man's beginnings with contemporary storytelling. Soon after publication, the series created continuity problems. Its revised events conflicted with long-established Spider-Man history that Marvel continued to treat as definitive. Subsequent Spider-Man titles stopped referencing Chapter 1 entirely. Marvel never integrated its changes into ongoing canon. The series has not been reprinted in major Spider-Man omnibuses or anniversary collections. Official timelines and handbooks default back to the original 1960s stories. Spider-Man Chapter 1 remains officially published, but functionally ignored. Existing as an abandoned attempt to overwrite a foundation, Marvel ultimately chose to preserve. At number 4 is Ultimatum. Ultimatum was published in 2009 as a crossover event concluding the Ultimate Marvel line's long-running story arcs. The series depicted a global catastrophe caused by Magneto, resulting in mass destruction and the deaths of numerous major characters. Heroes and civilians were killed abruptly, often without build-up, and violence was presented in graphic detail. Long-standing Ultimate versions of the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Avengers were removed in a short span of issues. At the time, Marvel approved the event to reset the Ultimate Universe and create shock-driven momentum. After publication, Marvel changed direction. Subsequent Ultimate titles ignored much of Ultimatum's fallout or quietly rebuilt characters without revisiting the event itself. Ultimatum is rarely promoted in retrospectives or anniversary material tied to the Ultimate line. It is selectively collected but not celebrated. Modern references to the Ultimate Universe focus on later relaunches rather than this ending. Ultimatum remains officially published, but stands as a disruptive conclusion Marvel chose not to emphasize in its legacy. Next up are Marvel's deepest reversals, major identity shifts, and franchise-level decisions that were undone, overwritten, and slowly pushed out of official memory. At number 3 is Punisher: Purgatory. Punisher: Purgatory was published in 1998 as a 4-issue miniseries. The story placed Frank Castle in a supernatural conflict involving angels, demons, and direct divine intervention. The Punisher was resurrected and guided by an angelic figure to carry out violent missions framed as holy judgment. The series departed sharply from the character's grounded crime-driven identity and presented his actions as part of a cosmic religious plan. At the time, Marvel approved the story during an era when supernatural themes were being pushed across multiple titles. After publication, the concept was quietly abandoned. Later, Punisher series returned the character to street-level crime stories and ignored the events of Purgatory. The miniseries has not been integrated into Punisher continuity and is rarely referenced in handbooks or timelines. It is absent from major Punisher collections and anniversary material. Punisher Purgatory remains officially published but isolated, treated as a standalone experiment Marvel chose not to continue or acknowledge. At number 2 is the Clone Saga, Ben Reilly as Spider-Man. The Clone Saga unfolded across multiple Spider-Man titles between 1994 and 1996 and introduced Ben Reilly as a clone of Peter Parker. What began as a limited mystery expanded rapidly. Marvel revealed that Peter Parker was believed to be the clone, while Ben Reilly was positioned as the original Spider-Man. Ben assumed the role, adopted a new costume, and replaced Peter as the central figure across the line. The direction was approved during a period of intense sales pressure, leading to repeated extensions, reversals, and added twists. As the storyline stretched on, internal logic collapsed, contradictions multiplied, creative teams changed, and the narrative lost a clear endpoint. Reader confusion grew as the story refused to conclude. Marvel ultimately reversed the premise in 1996, restored Peter Parker as the original Spider-Man, and ended the saga by killing Ben Reilly. In later years, Marvel acknowledged the storyline had expanded beyond control. While Ben Reilly still exists in modern continuity, the original 90s Clone Saga is treated as an overlong experiment that Marvel chose not to repeat. At number 1 is Avengers issue 200. Avengers number 200 was published in 1980 as a milestone issue. The story centered on Carol Danvers, also known as Ms. Marvel, who became mysteriously pregnant and gave birth within days. The child rapidly aged into an adult male named Marcus, who was revealed as the son of Immortus. Marcus explained that he engineered Carol's pregnancy so he could be born and escape his dimension. Carol later left Earth with him willingly. The story presented these events without challenge from the Avengers. At the time, Marvel approved the issue as a cosmic science fiction plot tied to existing villains. Later stories directly rejected it. Avengers. Annual 10 and subsequent issues reframed the event as manipulation and violation. Marvel stopped celebrating issue 200 despite its milestone status. The issue is rarely promoted, avoided in retrospectives, and excluded from character reading guides. Avengers number 200 remains published, but is treated as a mistake that Marvel chose to overwrite rather than revisit. Some Marvel mistakes were too big to ignore. Which comic should never have existed? Comment below, subscribe, and press the bell icon for regular updates.